the man from Purdue legend. First time talking to him, so I'm excited. He was in college while I was in high school, not to age him, but I was like, oh, Robbie Hummel and Etwan Moore and Jawan Johnson and Boiler legend, ESPN broadcaster Robbie Hummel. Robbie,
what's up,
good
man?
morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Good to meet you. I know this is the first time getting to talk and chat a little bit, so it's good to meet you. Thanks for waking up with me this morning.
Of course. Nice to meet you too.
How's are you in Indy right now, or where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in Indianapolis. I've been here outside of like one day, and I was in Evansville for 2 days too. But yeah, I've been on the road kind of for the last 2 weeks since the NCAA tournament started, and I did first and second round games for Westwood 1, and then went home for a day back to Chicago, and then flew down to Evansville and did the Division II National Championship for radio, and then came back up here. Did 2 Elite Eight games Monday and Tuesday, and now I'm here till Sunday doing the 3x3U stuff.
Right. So so when you're not doing broadcast on TV for ESPN, so then you're just doing radio.
So I actually work for like a bunch of different people. I do some stuff for Big Ten Network. I do some stuff for ESPN. And then Westwood 1 has all of the tournament games, and they use a lot of people from ESPN and Big Ten Network and other networks to do the NCAA tournament. So this would be my third year had COVID not chopped the tournament last year.
Right.
So this is technically my second year of doing the NCAA tournament.
Gotcha. All right. So what do you like different about TV compared to radio?
Well, radio is kind of like you're stealing money as the analyst, because it's got to be the play-by-play guy show. Like you can't see what's going on. So your play-by-play guy, it's his deal. So I was with Jason Benetti for the first 2 rounds, who I work with a lot at ESPN. And then I was with Brandon Gaudin for the Division II game, and Brandon's at Big Ten Network, so I work with him a ton. And then I was with Ryan Radke, who is a Westwood 1 guy for the Elite Eight games. But they have to paint the picture, So TV is more of an analyst game. Radio, you're just kind of like hanging out, especially if you've got 2 teams that run up and down. If there's a lot of transition going on, you just sit there and watch because they've got to be telling you what's going on from side to side. So like my first year, I was in Des Moines, Iowa, doing the first and second rounds with Kevin Kugler, who's another Big Ten Network play-by-play guy. And we had Michigan State. And when you have Michigan State, because they're known for their transition offense, after every defensive possession Michigan State had, you might as well just sit back and you could drink some coffee. You could enjoy, right? Because you're not going to say anything because they're coming right into it. So that's kind of the deal with radio versus TV.
Right. Was that a weird transition for you? Tough transition for you?
No, I can always shut up. It's not that hard to do that. It is tough because sometimes you feel like you have a really good point to make, and you just there's no time to get it in, and the game moves on, and you're like, you just got to kind of let it go.
When I did, because I kind of came up and grew up doing, in college and everything, radio play-by-play. And sure. I remember a few times if I had a color commentator that, struggled to get the point in, I just had to run him over and just go on to the next thing. Has that happened with you? Is Benetti just kind of, hey, shut the fuck up?
Jason, no, because I think I knew what I was doing because I've done stuff for Westwood. I've done some stuff for ESPN Radio. But my first year, yeah. I remember my first game doing radio. I actually did it with Ryan Radke, who I was here with at the Elite Eight. And we were doing Nevada, Utah out in Salt Lake City. And this was like 3 years ago now. And I'd never done a radio game. So he just at one point kind of big dog me, just talked over the top. And he had to. So I was making a point. Somebody got a steal. It ends up being a dunk. And like on radio, those guys are really, really good at not only telling you everything that's happening, but also like crushing big plays and like big calls. They're so good at that.
Yeah.
And you hear it a lot, like at the end of games when they'll replay these radio calls and these guys have these like super awesome calls of sending teams on to the next round or an awesome dunk that they just knock out of the park. And not that they don't do it on TV because they're good at it on that too. But Yeah, I've been there. I've been stampeded by the play-by-play guy. I think everybody has.
Right. That next commercial break is always interesting, right after that, because it's kind of like the awkward, you know what I mean? Like you don't really want to say anything, but then the play-by-play guy's like, hey, I just had to, get on to the next
game. Yeah. I always just apologize. I'm sorry, dude. I was totally in your space there. So it definitely is what you're saying, but as long as you have a good partner, it's not bad.
Sure. So you're in Indy, and we have this entire. I'm located in Indianapolis as well, and so we have this entire tournament, this historic thing that's going on. And I've asked Kyle Guy this, with him being an Indianapolis native. I know you're not an Indianapolis native, but you've been here plenty of times, and you're an Indiana native. For those people on the outside of the state who look at what's going on here this year, and then moving forward, what would you say to them as to the reason why Indianapolis and the state of Indiana is the perfect place to host this tournament like they're doing right now?
I mean, I think Indianapolis is like so well put together to host anything because they've been doing it for like 100 years with the Indy 500. So you've got like a really good background of doing that. Yeah. I always thought the Big Ten tournament was by far the best here. And when I was in college, all 5 years that I was at Purdue, all 5 years it was at Bankers Life. The hotels are right there, restaurants, bars, the arena's walkable. I think that's the biggest thing for these cities. So like New Orleans does a great job because Bourbon Street, the Superdome is right there. You can walk, and you compare that to like Phoenix, where the football stadium is out in Glendale by the baseball spring training facilities. It's like a 40-minute drive from downtown Phoenix. You can't you have to find a way out there.
Yeah.
Indianapolis is totally opposite of that. You can be downtown. You can kind of get wherever you need, and it will be a quick Uber or a walk, or it's a really easy city to get around. And then you also look at how many good venues they have. Like, you have 2 courts at Lucas Oil. You've got the stadium out at the fairgrounds, which everyone said is a pretty cool place. I've never been. I've been outside of it, but I've never been in.
The renovations there, yeah. I mean, definitely, it's right up there with anybody now. So
right. So that's a nice spot. Bankers Life is obviously really nice. You've got Purdue and Indiana that are 50 minutes away, so that those come into play. Hinkle, I think, with the renovation, I haven't been to Hinkle outside of 1 or 2 times since like 6th grade. So we did games there. I used to play the Indiana State AAU tournament there. So we played there as like 6th graders. So yeah. I remember it back then, and they've certainly done a lot of work and made it really nice on the inside. But there's just so many good places to host stuff. There's great arenas. And then you mix that with a city that's just really good at hosting conventions, sporting events in general. And I think Indianapolis makes a ton of sense.
You've been to the Indy 500? You have experience at IMS?
Yeah. I have, yes. I've been in the infield twice. It's a really good time. It can kind of be whatever you want it to be. You go up into the tower, and it's more of a Kentucky Derby type event where I think there's people
movie stars and shit. Yeah.
And then you get out in the infield, and there's like a rave going on at like the techno concerts that are going down.
So you're in the snake pit then, huh?
I've seen the snake pit. I've only been in like the infield, which is just like the tailgating area where you get like all walks of life. I think it's a pretty diverse situation. I think the Indy 500 was a great time. It's a really good time.
The snake pit is it is intimidating. It's especially when it's like 90 degrees and you're just like, you see all those bodies, even pre-COVID, you're like,
yeah,
probably not good.
It doesn't look like a good idea to venture into. And it's always like some intense DJ, like Skrillex is playing, and like it just looks like it's so hardcore. So I've witnessed that. I've watched it from the outside of the snake pit, but I have never gone in. And at 32, those days are probably over of doing that. So, but I would go back to the Indy 500. I'm not sure how much of the race I've ever actually watched. I think you watch like the start and you watch like the last 10 laps on the TV or 20 laps or whatever. But it's more of just an excuse to go and drink a lot of beer.
But you said it could be whatever you want it to be. And Doug Bowles, the president of IMS, he's even open about that. He's like, look, like, we're not asking everybody to just watch every lap. Like, come have a party, have fun, and like, we'll make it work, Yeah. So that's the beauty of it. All right. Obviously, Boiler legend. You were there from what, 2006, 2010?
7 to 12, actually. I would have graduated in 11, but because I redshirted with my knee, I stayed next year.
Okay. So obviously you have ties with the program and everything. What are your thoughts on this past year for them, the trajectory moving forward for Purdue and this program?
I thought they had a phenomenal year. I mean, you think about where they were in like January when they're down big at Michigan State, and you think about halftime there. It's like, man, this looks like it could go one of two ways here. And they come back in that game, steal one on the road. You beat Ohio State twice, which I guess maybe doesn't look as good now that they get bounced by Oral Roberts. But Oral Roberts looked pretty good. With as many young guys as they play, it's hard in college basketball, especially as good as the league. I still, even with the NCAA tournament, I still do think the Big Ten was really, really good this year.
Sure.
I know they didn't perform well when it mattered the most, but I do think there was a lot of good teams, a deep league. You look at the freshmen that play. Jaden Ivey is uber talented. I mean, he might be the most talented freshman that Coach Painter has had in his time from like a physical standpoint, where he can just
even including you, Juwan, Etwan, all those guys.
I'm not athletic. Etwan Moore is a good athlete or a solid athlete by NBA standards, but I think when you look at Etwan, he is a phenomenal basketball player, and he's not in like the 99 percentile of where you look at some of these NBA guys are. Yeah. I've always laughed about Etwan. Like, you give him a basketball and he is so natural, but you put him in like the swimming pool. Like, we used to do these swimming relays for conditioning at the co-rec.
Yeah.
If Etwan was on your team, you literally had no chance. He's not good at swimming. You look at like some of the other sports that you might play, like Drew Anthrop is good at like everything except golf. You give him a baseball bat, he's hitting home runs. You give him a football, he can throw a football a mile. He's good at like everything. Etwan is really good at basketball. I'm not sure that Etwan is great at other sports, but you give him, you put the basketball in his hands, he is so smooth and fluid.
So you're saying Jaden could go play wide receiver for Purdue? He's that kind of athlete.
Yeah, I think that he is. So you watch him move, you watch how explosive he is. You watch him just move his feet defensively, and it looks like it's so easy for him to guard really good players. Juwan was certainly very athletic at 6'10", but he was also so skinny, like his freshman year. He just wasn't like physically ready for the Big Ten from a physical standpoint. And then he got stronger, and by the time he was a sophomore, you're looking at one of the best bigs in the Big Ten. So I do think even with the three of us, Jaden is so naturally gifted. Brandon Newman, I know, didn't finish the season playing great, but I think really highly of him and his abilities. Ethan Morton doesn't play a lot, but I know Coach Painter really, really likes him, thinks really highly of him. So, yeah, and then you throw in like Zach. I mean, that's the 400 ranked recruit in the country. Like, there's no way. I guess he had gotten a lot better, or everybody missed the boat, or what, but.
Hey, he's 7'4", by the way, Robbie. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is enormous. So he had a really good year.
Do you guys have like a quota on ESPN when you're doing a TV game where you like have to, the play-by-play guy has to hit a certain amount of reminders of how tall Edie is?
Not that I've seen in like a memo, but I will agree that you do hear it all the time. So if you didn't know, Zach Edey is 7'4", like you said.
There you go. I got a couple of fans who are followers who are asking questions here. Glenn wants to know best non-basketball related Purdue memory.
Ooh. There's a bunch. I mean, Snoop Dogg came and we got to hang out with him. That was awesome.
What, like came to like a house party or what?
No, he performed at the Elliott Hall of Music. So, he was at Elliott, and he it was the day after actually I blew my knee out the second time. So like some of the guys were like, let's go to the concert, let's go have fun, which was good for me. And he like brought us on stage, not like to like be out in front of the crowd, but like on the side to like watch him. And like he was awesome. He played all of his like hits. We got to hang out with him afterwards up in like one of the dressing rooms. He was really nice, actually. He was really cool. So that was sweet. Grand Prix Wiz Khalifa concert at SNU was really fun. And Mac Miller was there. Rest in peace to Mac Miller.
Yeah, is you a big Mac Miller guy? You
I liked him, but I love Wiz. Like
love
I love, and that was around the time like they booked Wiz, I think, like cheap. And then Rolling Papers, the CD comes out, and all of a sudden he's like this massive musical act. It's like they had it on the hill at SNU, and it was so fun. It ended up being like I'm not sure how each one had a high school friend who was also a promoter, and he did a lot with a lot of these hip hop artists. And I think that he was involved with bringing Wiz to Purdue and setting it up with one of these frats. And I mean, it was like the perfect night. It's like 75 degrees outside. You know, it's nice. You're at basically this frat house outside. There's so many people there. Wiz is like the biggest thing at Purdue at the time because of the way his music has just blown up.
Yeah.
So that was an awesome night. There's probably a couple others. There's definitely a couple others, but those stand out. We were lucky. Like we had a really close knit group. Guys really enjoyed being around each other. We had a lot of fun. That's for sure. We had a lot of good times, and whether that was house parties or going to some of the fraternities or whatever, it was a good time.
Couple more before I get you out here. I appreciate the time this morning. Another Purdue one. Are you more, because I've talked to a lot of Purdue athletes. I'm lucky enough that I'm friends with a few of them now, and their answer always seems to surprise me. But are you more of a Harry's guy or a where else guy?
I've got to go with Harry's. I love Herschel, the owner, and Mary Cook is the best. Honestly, really underrated chicken wings. Like they have really good food.
Really?
I don't know if a lot of people know that, but there's great food at Harry's. And of course, like where else is a special place because, and I know both. I know the old where else and I know the new where else. But it was always like the last stop of the night, right? You always rolled into where else. And it was always kind of like there was a set pattern to like your night at the bars. And I will say, like, I really enjoyed Jake's. We went to Jake's a good amount in the summer because there weren't a lot of people there.
Yeah.
We watched like the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs because the Blackhawks were good. And we just totally, I mean, I'm from around Chicago, but we totally hopped on the bandwagon and rode that with like the Jonathan Tays and Patrick Kane championships that they won. But we'd go there and like eat hot dogs and watch the game, and we always had a good time at Jake's. But it's like during school, it was always like, all right, go to Harry's and then hit Brothers and then finish it where else. Like that was like just the roadmap to having fun that night, like. Absolutely. So I honestly love all the bars that were at Purdue, and I mean the Cactus. I think everybody was just sick when that closed because it was such a big part of your Thursday night. Yep. You went to the Cactus. You went and saw Bruce in the piano bar. I mean that.
Do you still have the Thomas cups? We got to.
Oh yeah, I have a bunch of them at my house. I've got a bunch in Chicago. I'll always have those things just because they remind me of so many good times.
There you go.
So yeah, I think that all the bars are great, but I have to go with Harry's. It just brings back like so many awesome times of being at Purdue, whether it's Grand Prix or just a normal night on a weekend or whatever. So nice. I have to go with Harry's.
And then last one, people are blowing up the comments here, and I want to know obviously too. Indiana, they just hired Mike Woodson, bring on Thad Matta. What are your thoughts about that hire and where IU's going?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised just because I thought they might go with somebody with some more college experience coaching wise. And you pay Archie Miller $10 million in a buyout, which is a lot. So, Coach Woodson, I've met him a couple times. I worked out for the Clippers, and he was an assistant there. So I've been around him a little bit. He is so well respected in basketball circles and in that NBA kind of world. But coaching in college is so much different than the NBA in the sense of like, if you're an NBA assistant, you do some scouts. I think your main job as an assistant in the NBA is to have a good understanding of what your players are going through and kind of being a sounding board for them and helping them. Because a lot of those guys have been through it. Mike Woodson had played in the NBA for a long time and coached in the NBA for a long time. I think the Thad Matta hire is really smart because you need somebody there to kind of help him navigate what this is. Because in college, you're like part basketball coach, part academic advisor, part father.
Sure.
There's a lot of roles you play when you're coaching and you have your own program. So I think that him getting good assistants and filling out his staff is going to be really important. I think Juwan Howard kind of opens the door for hires like this to be looked at as, okay, this can be good because he's been so effective at Michigan.
Yeah.
But you look at his staff that he hired, like Phil Martelli is a head coach for 27 years at St. Joe's, and you bring in Howard Isley, who's been an NBA assistant and also was a really good player in the NBA. And then you fill it up with Sadi Washington, who was a Beeline assistant and considered one of the better assistant coaches in the Big Ten. So I think him filling out his staff is going to be important. I don't doubt that he'll be terrific X's and O's wise. It's about recruiting. It's about those other things that I talked about where you're just kind of doing stuff outside of basketball. But I think it's always cool when you bring back somebody from their alma mater and they have pride, like a Juwan Howard or we have with Matt Painter, because they want the school to do so well. They have such a connection there, and we'll see. I think time will obviously only tell.
Robbie, thanks so much for waking up with me, man. Enjoy this weekend with the Final Four, and I really appreciate it, dude. Good talking to you.
Thanks for having me, Joey. Anytime.